Welcome back to another episode of Cape Ann Today with State Senator Bruce Tarr. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
Hi, Heather. I'm doing okay. A little touch of pneumonia, but I'm doing okay. How are you doing today?
So sorry. I'm fine. I don't have pneumonia. I was just on vacation, but I'm so sorry you don't feel well.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of different things going around out there, and I managed to catch one of them, dealing with lots of people,
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of the territory. And, thanks to good doctors and good medicine, I'm doing okay. And hopefully we'll be able to get through this without having a coughing fit that will interrupt it.
And all our masks are off, so we are all getting sick. Maybe not with.
Well, that's true. I think that was a side benefit to masking for COVID is that it prevented us from contracting all of these other things, and now we're exposed to them and maybe a little bit more vulnerable than we were before.
Right, right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's move quickly so that you can go take a nap. All right.
Okay.
I know you want to talk about the an important bill that's coming to the floor on Thursday that regards roads and bridges, right?
I do want to talk about that, Heather, because it's very positive news, and it's good news because this is a bill that we have to do on an annual basis. And what it does is authorize bond funding for Chapter 90. And Chapter 90 is the part of the general laws that governs roads and bridges. And in this case, this bond money will be used to assist municipalities with their road and bridge construction projects. And so there's a formula in state statute by which every community is entitled to a share of this funding. And that formula has to do with the number of road miles that a community has, the population that it has, and a couple of other factors. But the point is that the proceeds of this bond authorization touch every city and town in Massachusetts. And again, this is an annual exercise. And part of the good news here is that oftentimes the legislature isn't able to accomplish this for another several months, or at least a couple. In this case, we're still in March, and our goal is to have it done fairly quickly. And it would be a very positive thing to get this done as April begins, because that signals the beginning of the construction season. And we want municipalities to know what their share of this funding is going to be so that they can actually begin to commit to and execute road and bridge projects in this construction season. So it is important. And I would point out that this is a bond bill. So this authorizes the Commonwealth and the Healy administration to borrow money, the proceeds of which are then distributed to cities and towns. And the reason we use the bond mechanism for this is because roads and bridges generally have a lifespan of longer than 5 years, which makes them more amenable to bond funding, which is for capital projects that have a longer life than things that might not have that much of a shelf life. So importantly, the House has already approved its version of this bill, and it did so unanimously, 153 to nothing. And our Committee on Ways and Means has released a version of this bill that we're going to take up on Thursday. Now, there are going to be, I would predict, some minor differences between the bills. And so it isn't just as simple as the Senate passing what the House passed. There is going to be a difference. But hopefully those differences can be resolved and the bill will soon be on its way to the governor's desk. Now, those differences will surround the additional things that each branch wants to do with the bill. So the House added another $150 million to this bill. It's our plan to add another $150 million to this bill beyond the $200 million that goes through the formula. And those additional dollars in the Senate version of the bill will be used for specific purposes. So $25 million would be for road construction in municipalities with low population density. So we've heard from a lot of communities in Western Massachusetts that they don't have the broad taxpayer base to be able to pay for road and bridge construction, but their roads are very important, particularly because they don't have a lot of public transportation. So we're giving an additional $25 million to them. $25 million for the municipal bridge program, which is very important. There actually are a couple of bridges right now in Gloucester that are benefiting from this particular type of allocation or appropriation. We put $25 million into the Complete Streets program, which is important, again, to help municipalities enhance their roadways. $25 million for a bus transit infrastructure program. So think about CADA and trying to support them with infrastructure. $25 million for grants to increase access to mass transit and commuter rail stations. So again, we have several of those on Cape Ann, and the idea behind this is the municipal infrastructure that connects the community to those stations should be improved. And then lastly, I'm sorry.
What are the things, the structures besides roads that are going to connect people to those mass transit?
So there might be pedestrian access. There might be curbing that needs to be installed. There might be handicapped access in terms of ramps and things of that nature that help to connect the community to the station. And so that's an important element of this, because it's not a very large amount of money statewide, $25 million, but it improves those things that may not be big projects, but a municipality might not otherwise get to do. And then the last one in this category is $25 million for electric vehicle grants from municipalities and regional transit authorities. And we've seen a tremendous interest in municipalities and the RTAs. CADA had a demonstration project on this not all that long ago to be able to shift toward electric vehicles. So $25 million in the bill, the Senate version of the bill, would also go for that purpose. So again, I think that we'll be able to work out the differences in the two bills, and very soon our Governor Healy will have in her hands the tool to make these dollars available to our cities and towns.
So could you compare this Chapter 90 offer to the municipalities to last year, to other years?
So the $200 million figure is one that we've been using for quite a while. What's different about this bill is the $150 million of additional funding for these separate categories that I've just recited. But the municipalities have, I would say, fairly come to rely on the $200 million amount, although there has been a lot of lobbying, particularly by the Mass Municipal Association and individual local officials, to try to boost that number. And that's something that you may see later down the line in different legislation as we assess how much money we have as we begin to get a better picture of the coming fiscal year.
Well, let's move on to another, a local subject, a more local subject, although, you know, Chapter 90 is certainly local. The Gloucester Police Department, the City Council is about to decide on funding for the renovations there.
So we're speaking on Tuesday, and tonight at the City Council meeting, the full council will consider approving the loan authorization for the city to undertake the reconstruction of the courthouse and the police station. And folks that have been following this may recall that this actually started out as about a $600,000 project to improve the windows in the building, to make them more energy efficient and more modern. And as work began to explore doing that, a whole series of things were uncovered. And it led to the point where now this is a $19.3 million project to rehabilitate the entire building. That's certainly been an interesting surprise for everyone to have to deal with. But an important part of this for both me and for Representative Ferranti has been to keep the district court located on Main Street in Gloucester. And it wasn't all that long ago where we had to fend off several attempts by various administrations to close the Gloucester courthouse. And we made the argument very strenuously that the courthouse needed to stay open and it needed to stay where it was. And that's for a variety of reasons, not the least of which our police departments need to be able to have efficient access to the court and not be traveling outside of the community where there increases overtime costs. It takes people off the street in Gloucester or Rockport when they have to go to a court outside of town. But there's more than that. The district court is also the place where you might pursue a small claim. And that's important to the business community to be able to have those disputes adjudicated locally. It's also a place where there are a number of social functions, including restraining orders that need to be issued, or Section 35 or Section 12 involuntary petitions for those that have a need for mental health treatment or substance abuse treatment. And those things belong in the heart of the community where they can be supported not only by the police department, but by other organizations in the community. And then last, it's important to have the court facility on Main Street as part of the local economy. It draws folks to Main Street for a variety of reasons. And so we fought very hard to keep this courthouse where it is. But we face a turning point now because it needs improvement. And so, in addition to the city needing to fund this, we've made the argument that the state also needs to participate. And the good news here is the state has agreed, and the trial court will be making payments of approximately $5.5 million over the next 30 years, which would be consistent with the borrowing for the project. So the state is going to participate. And the important part of that is not just the money. The important part of that is it reflects a commitment to keep the court where it is for the next 30 years. And so we've worked very hard to be able to cause that new lease agreement to be made, and credit to Mayor Verga and his team and everyone involved, including Judge Patton, who was the presiding judge at the Gloucester District Court. It's been a real team effort to get us to the point where we have a lease and we have a project, and hopefully the subcommittee on budget and finance has approved the loan order, and hopefully the full council will. And not only will we secure the courthouse, at least for the next 3 decades, but we'll also get a new, or not a new, but an improved police station that is of the caliber that it should be to house the men and women that protect our safety 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That is a good story.
Well, it's a good example, Heather, of what happens when people work together. And the success of this project was never a given. And it took a lot of effort, and there were a lot of bumps in the road, but everyone pulled together, and it's been a great team effort. I know it's a substantial expenditure on the part of the city, but it really addresses a number of different things in terms of bringing the police station to where it needs to be and bringing the courthouse to where it needs to be. Some folks have suggested that maybe we should look for another location and build a new building. And that simply wouldn't work with the courthouse. I think the trial court would not endorse that idea. So the city is playing the cards that it has to the best of its ability. And the other important thing about this is, as this project moves forward, now the administration can also turn its attention to Central Fire Station and consider that on its own merits and as its own project. But that's a story for another day.
All right. All right. Well, I look forward to that story. Anything else you want to leave us with before you go rest up?
Only that I think that it is very speaks volumes about the Massachusetts legislature that we're about to, in a bipartisan way, on Thursday of this week, authorize literally hundreds of millions of dollars for our cities and towns in a very collaborative way that responds to a priority that every city and town in Massachusetts holds. And I think that, there's a lot of negativity out there, and there's a lot of division when we talk about politics and we talk about government. But this is just another example that shouldn't be under-recognized about how collaboration can still happen.
That is a good message. So thank you very much for that and for all your work. And I hope you feel better soon.
Thanks, Heather, very much. I'm going to drink some hot tea as soon as we're done.
All right. All right. Take care. Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.